Deep breath. One more. Just sit for a moment in this energy. So this month we're talking about Unity's 5 principles. Last week we heard from Reverend Deanne about the one power and the one presence. And this morning we're going to talk about Unity's 2nd principle, which says, human beings have a spark of the divinity within them, the Christ spirit within. Their very essence is of God, therefore they are also inherently good. A spark of the divine. I would try to take that spark part out and just say you are divine. The divine lives in us. The divine is a part of us. We're a part of God. God is a part of us. Hafez, the Persian poet from the 1300s, said, "Where's the door to God? In the sound of a barking dog, in the ring of a hammer, in the drop of rain, in the face of everyone I see." The face of everyone you see. The second unity principle, as I said, is based on the first, which says there's one power and one presence, only one God who is absolute good, always present and always powerful. And as Reverend Deanne said last week, it's one power and one presence in our life and in the universe, and there's not an opposing power to God. It's all good. We are all good. John 15:5-7 says, "I am the vine and you are the branches. If a man remains in me and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not remain in me, he is like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire and burned. But if you remain in me and my words remain in you, whatever you wish, it will be given to you." How many of you have any big dreams or big wishes? Most of us do. Most of us have some tiny dreams that seem really big all of a sudden when it's time to step into them and to live up to them. So we take that step into this dream. We take it into the wish that we have. But we have to ask and believe, knowing that we will get exactly what we ask for. Because we are divine, we're a part of God, and God is a part of us. So how many of you believe in Unity's 2nd principle? Good. Some days I do too. Only kidding. I always believe in it. But some days I'm not too sure about some of those people that I see. And some days that's just me looking in the mirror. Because the things that I see us doing to each other and the things I see us, the way we're treating each other, sometimes it's very difficult to see the face of God in that person. Sometimes, as I said, looking in the mirror, it's difficult to see the face of God in myself. We each have those moments where we're probably not acting very godly at any given moment. That's just a part of who we are. That's a part of our human nature. That's a part of us living this spiritual life, or this human life in this spiritual world that we're in. But thankfully, I can believe in it because I understand that it's talking about the reality of who we are. And it's not just how we present ourselves at any given moment. We're in it for the long run. We're in it for the long plan. And we can see that when we're living our highest and best selves, then we are indeed the face of God. We are indeed the hands of God and the voice of God, and we're the feet of God, because we are, as I said, the only plan God has for this earth. If the earth is going to understand and feel loved, then that's got to come from us. We've got to share that love with those around. And I believe that we do that in the long run in most of our cases. We are born to be inherently good. Every person on the face of earth is born inherently good. Just keep reminding yourself of that. When you watch television, when you listen to politics, when you listen to all the stuff that's going on in our world, you just keep reminding yourself that every person you're looking at was born inherently good. Now, what we've done since we were born, that's on us. But we were born inherently good. That's a part of who we are and a part of what's important to us. And we have to understand that the only consciousness that we can change is our own. I can't change anybody in this room. I can offer suggestions on how people can change, but you get to decide if you want to use any of them or not. You get to decide if you want to change your consciousness and move up to the next level, or if you want to stay where you are in the place that you are. Every one of us gets to make that choice on our own. The Christ presence living in us, the divine, lives through every one of us. As Reverend John Paul Roach puts it, we are worthy as beloved children of God to inherit the limitless good of God's creation. We are worthy, period. As beloved children of God, period, to inherit the limitless good of God's creation. Luke 12:32, Jesus said, "Don't be afraid, little flock, for it's your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." We are divine. We have that divinity, that Christ presence living in us at all times. Now I want you to say this after I do, okay? I am blessed. I am blessed. Okay, now this time say it like you really believe it. I am blessed. I am blessed. Great job. Some days that's hard to believe too. But we, everyone, are blessed. We are blessed, one, with the ability to breathe. And we don't have anything to do with that. We just wake up and there it is. We get to breathe. We're breathing when we wake up. We're breathing throughout our day. And it's not something we have to stop and consciously think about. It's just something that happens. It's a part of our blessing. So what are some of the blessings in your life? And this isn't rhetorical. I really want you to yell out the answer. What are some of the blessings in your life? Home. Family. Thank you. Amen. Thank you. Great answers. I asked this at church not too long ago, and nobody said family or spouse, and I was a little worried about them for the rest of the afternoon. So grateful that we threw family in right up front. We want to make sure that we're grateful for them. Although reality is sometimes that's the hardest people to be grateful for, because we know where those buttons are to push each other. And we can send each other right over the edge with very little work sometimes. But we have so many things in our life that we can be thankful for. When I went to church as a little kid, there was a song called Count Your Blessings. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. I would change that just a little bit to say to see what God and I have done, because we co-create our world. But we are blessed. We are wonderfully and worthy and blessed. Every one of us is blessed. I read a quote by Swish Goswami that says, if you have food in your fridge, clothes on your body, a roof over your head, and a place to sleep, you are richer than 75% of the entire world. If you have money in your wallet and you can go anywhere you want, you are among 18% of the world's most wealthy people. If you're alive and healthy, you're more blessed than the millions of people who will not survive this week. If you can actually read and understand what you're reading, you are more fortunate than the 3 billion people in the world who are blind, deaf, or illiterate. Count your blessings. Name them one by one. I'm honest enough to tell you that this week has been tough. One of those where you just grip it and you try to keep going through it. And sometimes you just want to stop and go to bed so you can sleep and forget the rest of the week existed. But you know that's not reality and it's not what you can really do. So you just keep pushing forward and you keep moving on and you keep looking forward. Stop the looking back stuff. Just look forward at what's next. And as you're looking forward and as you're looking to see what's next in your life, there's all kinds of things that we can see and that we can count as our blessings. So when I get that way, I start into my gratitude journal. And I don't read what I've written before. I start over writing new stuff. And they're kind of used to it at work now. That at some moments in my day, I'm just going to open my pad and start writing. That means I've had enough there too. But there's things to be grateful for wherever we are. And the more we look at our gratitude, the more we can reach out. The more we can reach out to others and share God's love with them. We are blessed beyond all measure. James 4:2 says, you have not because you ask not. And then it follows that with, you have to ask and believe. So we get what we ask for. So as Unity of Central Florida, as we look toward things like financial stability, as we look toward things like our next minister, we need to think big. It's time to stop thinking little. We can think small and hope that we can get this $5, or we can think bigger than that and reach out and grab a hold of the rings that are what God has promised for us. I encourage us to reach out, to ask and to believe and to dream big, to affirm that the right and perfect person will be present to lead this church, to align our spirit and the Christ spirit in each one of us with that of God, and to claim something big. Pray big prayers. A friend of mine who's a minister says, pray for your needs and then pray for your dreams. I want to remind you, in Unity, we don't pray beseeching God and asking God to do things for us. We affirmatively pray. So instead of saying, God, please send more money, we affirm that there is money in our accounts. It took me a long time to learn how to do that. When I walk, then that's when I start doing a lot of my meditations and my affirmations and start going through things. And now when I walk, one of the things I say is there is more than enough money in every account I have. There's more than enough money in my retirement account. There's more than enough money in my checking account. There's more than enough money in my savings account, and I affirm all of those beliefs. That's how we pray in Unity. We're not saying, God, please send us $1. Now, I promise you, as we give and as we're prosperous, more will come to us. Because God has promised that it comes back to us as a good measure, heaped up, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. So we have the blessing there already. We just need to claim it and take it as our own. Let's believe that God is truly our source, creator of all, provider of all our needs and of all of our wants. We acknowledge that we're blessed in a lot of ways, but one of the reasons we're blessed is to be a blessing to other people. Every one of us is born to be a blessing. As we move forward in confidence, we choose each situation to be a curse or a blessing. Ernest Holmes says, life is either a blessing or a curse according to the way you make it. So we make that choice over and over and over. Is this going to be a curse to me, or is this going to be a blessing to me? And I choose blessing as often as I possibly can until that humanness takes over, and then maybe I go in a different direction. This month, I've been studying a lot of peacemakers. So I've looked at Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. and Mother Teresa. And I found this saint that I want to share with you this morning. Her name is Amma, A-M-M-A. Any of you ever heard of Amma? She's known as the hugging saint. She's 70 years old. She's still alive. And Amma means beloved mother. I would tell you her real name, but she's from India, and I can't say a word of it. I even got one of my students to help me phonetically spell it out, and it was still so horrible. They said, just skip it. So we're just going to skip it, and we're going to call her Amma, which is what she prefers to be called anyway, beloved mother. And she spent the last 35 years inspiring others to follow in her path of service. She has literally hugged over 40 million people in 40 countries. That's amazing. Can you just imagine that? It's said that at one point she sat and hugged people for 20 straight hours because the lines were that long. Something simple as a hug. So Amma is hugging these people. She grew up in the poorest caste system, in the poorest part of the caste system in India. And when they looked at her life, they said that she was taken out of school in the 4th grade, and her job was to go around to each of her neighbors' houses and take whatever scraps of food they had or scraps of cloth that could be made into clothing and bring it to her family. But her parents said that the problem was She saw all of these people in their homes and that they were equally poor and sometimes even more poor. So she started taking food from her family and giving it to these other people, taking clothes from her family and giving it to the other folks. That didn't work well with the family. But what a way to start a ministry. You notice somebody in need and you start to give to them. She was a blessing to them. They said when she was 13, she would sit by the river and write thoughts from the Bhagavad Gita, their holy book, that totally mystified the adults. She had that kind of a relationship with Spirit. At 14, she began her hugging ministry, and when people asked her why she did it, she said, people used to come and tell me their troubles. They would cry and I would wipe their tears. When they fell weeping into my lap, I used to hug them. Then the next person wanted a hug too. So the habit just picked up. A simple hug, a simple thank you, a kind word, a smile. There's so many different things we can do to bless others that don't require some great amount of money, some great education, or a huge amount of effort. When she was asked as she grew older what it was that people worshiped her for, why do people worship you was the actual question. She replied, I worship them. I don't believe in a God who lives up in the sky. All living beings are God, and I believe in loving and serving them. May we each hear that and apply it. May we each understand that we are all, every one of us, born inherently good and a part of God. We are indeed the face of God, as are all these other people. And as she became known in her community, they asked her some other questions. And one of the things she said was, I don't see if it's a man or a woman. I don't see anyone different from my own self. A continuous stream of love flows from me to all creation. This is my inborn nature. The duty of a doctor is to treat patients. In the same way, my duty is to console those who are suffering. This is a perfect example of unity principles 1 and 2, which have to do with oneness. We are all connected. When we do badly to each other, we're doing it to ourselves. We are all connected. I don't think a lot of people get that. And sometimes it's very hard to understand. But we are a connected group. We are all one. And Unity's 5th principle is what she does every day, which says we live the truth that we know. So whatever it is that you've been called to do to bless other people, that is the truth you know and what it is you should be doing. One of her quotes says, I don't think I can do 100% of healing the world of its problems. Attempting to change the world completely is like trying to straighten the curly tail of a dog. But society takes birth from people. So by affecting individuals, you can make changes in the society and through it in individuals. You cannot change it, but you can make changes. The fight in individual minds is responsible for the wars. So if you can touch people, you can touch the world. There's a song that we occasionally sing that says, I cannot do all the good that the world needs now, but I can do all the good that I can do. That's all we're called for. Our calling on this earth is to do the good that we can do and to figure out how it is that we do that good. It's our job to step forward and to lead and to be doing good for other people. As we spend more time in prayer and meditation and reflection, there are ways that we'll be led to bless people. And when your way is mentioned and you know it's yours to do, step out and do it. Blessing others doesn't require any education or any specific knowledge. It just requires us to do what we've been called to do. What we offer the world doesn't have to be complicated, thank goodness. We just have to do what we're called to do. Be a blessing by being yourself. If you're a musician, then bless us with your music. If you're a speaker, bless us with your speaking. If you're a hugger, bless us with your hugging. if you just like to smile at people, bless people with your smile. Now, I do want to say, everybody doesn't like to be hugged. I'm sure there's some people who have left because they knew that was Alma's gift and not what they were interested in. So don't go out and just grab somebody and hug them. Let them let you know if that's something they're okay with, and then you can give them a hug if that's it. But be yourself. Don't try to be Alma. Don't try to be anyone else. Just be you. Set an intention to be a blessing. And sometimes know that your blessing is going to be rebuked. People aren't always going to receive it, especially the way you meant for them to. I heard a story about a family who was having a big gathering, and the mother was exhausted before this party even began. She was setting everything up and getting it all ready. And when it was time for the blessing, one of the elder members of the family looked over at one of the kids and said, "Why don't you say the blessing for us?" I don't know how many of you have little children, but if you ask them to say the blessing, you're not real sure what you might get sometimes. So the little girl looked up and said, "I have no idea what to say." So the father said, "Say what your mother says before we eat dinner." So the little girl bowed her head and said, "Dear God, why did I invite all of these damn people to lunch?" Sometimes we're right there with that little girl and that mother. We've had about all we can stand, and we wonder why we've chosen to do the things we've chosen to do. But if you're called to do it, you know that's what you're supposed to be doing. If it's yours to do. One day this week, I was walking down the hall at work, and I decided to quote Charles Fillmore. So I started with that, part about, "I fairly sizzle with zeal to do the things today that is mine to do." And I burst out laughing because there was not any sizzle or any zeal in me walking down that hallway at that moment. But you try to build yourself up and to move on. But sometimes it's harder to do than others. But no matter what's going on, realize that you are the heart, you are the hands, you are the feet, and you are the very breath of God on this earth. Don't let small obstacles get in your way. Know that you are blessed, know that you are prosperous, and go out and bless and prosper others.